I loaded it onto my computer and sent an email to John with the subject, "Will you look at this?" Then I immediately came to the boards and began typing up my thread, explaining myself, explaining the Gristers, explaining the photograph. I was just getting ready to post it when John sent me a message. "Yo, don't show this to anyone." I stopped. I replied to John asking what he was talking about. He told me. He said that he thought he had figured out what was making the Gristers more hostile around him. He said that he thought when they figured out that he could see them, they started getting more aggressive. He showed me scratches he had all down his arm from them clawing at him at night. He said that he'd seen a lot more of the bigger ones hanging around his house at night too. They watched him through his windows. They knew he could see them, and they didn't like it. And now, I was pretty sure they knew I could see them too. So what did I do? In the end, I didn't post the picture. I wasn't too intimidated, but it probably saved a lot of you. I didn't want to trigger anyone else into being able to see these guys if it had been dangerous consequences down the road. I didn't notice any behavior change right away. In fact, for a while, it was the same. For about 2 weeks, the Gristers acted just the same as they had always acted. I was beginning to think that maybe John's problem was his own thing, and the Gristers didn't know or didn't care if I could see them. But then things started happening so fast. I woke up one night, and there were 4 of them, just perched around my bed, staring at me. I freaked out and swept them away, and they just hissed that terrible noise at me and ran away. I emailed this to John, who I hadn't talked to otherwise. He didn't respond. We hadn't talked since I had told him about the picture, and even rarely before then. After 2 days, during which the Gristers began touching me in my sleep, I got an answer. John was dead. His brother had the password to his email and was letting all his internet acquaintances know he had committed suicide, sliced his wrists open in the bathtub. John didn't seem like the type to commit suicide to me. Had things with the Gristers really gotten that bad that they drove him to do that? We didn't really know each other very well, but he hadn't mentioned anything to me. His brother said he hadn't left a note. I gave him my condolences. Now I had no one to talk to about this. I started looking online for more references or anything. All the while, the Gristers were getting more and more aggressive. I'd look over my shoulder and there'd be 1 or 2 on the windowsill just staring at me. One time I opened the door to my apartment. I live on the 3rd floor, and there was one about the size of a large dog, staggering at the bottom of the stairwell, pale face flashing in and out of the darkness, baring its teeth in a growl at me, pale limbs flashing as it bounded up the stairs. I slammed the door shut. I didn't go to work that day. Then, I saw it on the news. The house that I seen the fat Grister at, I would have skipped right past the news story had I not seen the picture of the house. The article was titled, 8 Found Dead, 3 Alive in Rape Dungeon Raid. Apparently some sick messed up guy had been using the basement of one of those abandoned houses as a place to keep women prisoner and kill them when they felt like it. It was a terrible story, but one of the things that the survivors said really struck me. We were just so terrified. All the time. We never when he was going to come in and decide to kill one of us. When he was going to really hurt us while raping us. We were just so terrified. All the time. Terrified. All the time. And the Gristers had been all over the place. And when I first saw one, I was reading Creepypasta and was pretty freaked out. Same for John. Were these things drawn to fear? Then I read that 2 of the survivors were being sent to a mental hospital for hallucinations. Did they see the Gristers? I stopped sleeping. I didn't want to wake up to those things staring at me. I stopped eating too whenever I wasn't at work, which was more and more often as I called out many times when I saw Gristers bigger than a cat sniffing around my building for me. I was locked in my room, trying to hunt for information on the internet about these things. I just couldn't find anyone who has actually seen them. The Gristers were getting more violent. They were starting to scratch me and bite me in those few scant hours that I actually did nod off to sleep. I did always freak out and sweep them away. They just hiss at me. After about a few weeks of this, I came home from work and found my cat dead. They had peeled all the skin away from her skull, giving her a look of shock. I quit my job. I cried for days. /X, I don't have many friends, and I really did love that cat. They're not stupid. They don't talk. They act differently from us, but they do have intelligence. I went out for food last week. It was the last time I will ever go out. I was sitting at the downtown bus station, shivering, looking all around me for Gristers. When the bus approached, I got up to get on. Out of nowhere, a Grister, the size of a normal human, just bent over and walking their weird loping gait, slammed into the back of the woman next to me and threw her in front of the bus. She had no chance. I saw her slide under the wheels of the bus. I saw her blood and ruined organs squeezed out of her mouth like toothpaste. Everyone freaked out and panicked. As people rushed to her aid, the Grister turned towards me, and it grinned. I dropped my groceries and screamed, running back to my house, sobbing all the way. They're toying with me. And that's when I finally realized why there wasn't anyone I could talk to about Gristers. How many times when people commit suicide do you hear it reported that they were suffering from hallucinations? Read the reports of people who have been in terrible, frightening situations, like that rape dungeon or war. How many of them suffer from hallucinations? Sure, a lot of them are actual hallucinations, but some of them, they're Gristers. And eventually, they figure out that you can see them, and they start messing with you. And I don't think anyone who they kill is driven to suicide. I don't think John committed suicide. I think they're smart. I think they know how to make something look like a suicide. You'll hear about it sometimes. You'll read in a report about how someone committed suicide, but something just isn't quite right about it. Like a man who went out and bought a new couch and then cut his wrists on it. /X, I'm convinced there was nothing special about John and me. I don't think there's anything special about anyone who sees these things. I think you're just more likely to see them when you're really scared, since that's when they're drawn to you. I can hear them right now. It's about 3 in the morning. It sounds like a really big one is outside my apartment door. It sounds like it's trying to gnaw its way through the wood, and so I'm taking the easy way out. I'd rather have a nice sharp slice of my arms open than have my skin torn by those teeth. So please, this is my warning to you. Stop reading Creepypasta. I know you love it. I know you love scaring yourself, but you've got to stop. Every time you read it, every time you get that feeling of dread in your stomach, you're drawing the Gristers to you. And if you don't stop reading, at least, please, never check out those sounds in the house when you do. Hi everybody, this is Razdidey, and I just want to thank you so much for listening to my reading of The Gristers. It's actually my very favorite creepypasta, just because it's not really supernatural and it kind of ticks away at something that we've all run into. So again, thank you so much for listening, and I really hope you enjoyed it. Stay tuned for the next episode. Like, comment, and subscribe, and as always, have a good one!